Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today I'm going to be stepping in as your financial mentor. And our goal? It's pretty simple, honestly. We're going to strip away all that cultural mythology surrounding the millionaire label and replace it with some grounded mathematical realism. Because if you've been chasing this milestone your entire adult life, it is high time you found out what actually waits for you at the finish line. All right, let's jump right in. I want to introduce you to a guy named Leo. Just think of Leo as a stand-in for your future self. Now, he just crossed a threshold that people literally write songs and build massive game shows around. He just hit 7 figures invested. But as we're about to see, he hasn't exactly experienced any of the fireworks that pop culture promised him. So it's 7:14 in the morning. And instead of popping champagne, calling his wife, or, crying tears of joy, Leo is just sitting on the toilet in his old gym shorts from 2019. His coffee's getting cold on the bathroom counter. He's just looking at his brokerage app, staring at a little comma that wasn't there yesterday. He tilts the phone, refreshes it, and he just goes, okay. Then he gets up and brushes his teeth. Now make no mistake, mathematically speaking, this is a massive achievement. Hitting this $1 million milestone puts Leo in roughly the top 1.6% of adults globally. I mean, out of 8 billion people, he is statistically incredibly rare. But keep this in the back of your mind, because we're about to uncover why this specific number actually contains a massive tax trap that nobody warns you about. And later on, we'll see why a quote from Charlie Munger is the real light at the end of the tunnel here. This really illustrates perfectly why the script we've all been sold is totally obsolete. The word millionaire has been hammered into our culture for, about a century? But $1 million back in 1960 had the purchasing power of about 11 million today. Even in 1990, it was roughly 2.5 million in today's money. So the label has lost about 91% of its original punch. The math has completely fallen apart, and honestly, nobody even bothered to update the script. So if you think you're going to live purely off the income, just kicking back, doing nothing, and watching the dividends roll in, let me hit you with some cold water. If your million is parked in an S&P 500 index fund, the dividend yield is hovering around an all-time historical low of about 1.06%. That translates to roughly $10,600 a year, or just $29 a day. You literally cannot even buy a Chipotle burrito with guac for that. The math just does not work. Now, what's really fascinating is what happens when you look at actual withdrawal strategies. Even if you use the famous 4% rule responsibly, which modern estimates actually put between 3.9% and 4.7%, a $1 million portfolio generates an income of roughly $39,000 to $47,000 a year. To put that into perspective, $39,000 is right around the federal poverty line for a family of 4. So yeah, you can absolutely quit your job tomorrow on this number, but you're going to have to live like you're broke to do it. Okay, remember that tax trap I mentioned earlier? Here it is. Your million might not actually be a million. If most of your money is sitting in a traditional 401k, the IRS is essentially a roommate who has been living rent-free in your account for 23 years, and when you finally pull that money out, they hand you the invoice. At a blended retirement tax rate of 25%, your million is really only about $750,000 of spendable cash. Whereas a Roth million, which is post-tax, is actually worth a full, no-strings-attached million. To make matters even worse, there are these stealth taxes just waiting in the wings. Take the net investment income tax, or NIIT. It quietly slaps an extra 3.8% surcharge on your investment income once you cross a certain threshold. And the real punchline here? That $200,000 threshold for single filers was set way back in 2013 and has never been indexed for inflation. It's essentially stealth bracket creep, and it's quietly catching more and more investors every single year. So this harsh mathematical reality feeds directly into the psychology of wealth. And this next part, it might actually break your brain. A 2025 survey by Northwestern Mutual asked actual U.S. millionaires if they considered themselves wealthy. The result? 64% of them, almost 2/3 of actual millionaires, said no, they do not feel wealthy. They completely reject the label. And, it's not just modesty. The bar has genuinely moved. That cultural milestone we've been chasing as the ultimate finish line is just obsolete. According to Schwab's 2025 survey, the average American says it now takes $2.3 million to be considered wealthy. And Empower's data goes even further, showing Americans average the finish line at $5.3 million. The $1 million mark is now barely a fifth of what people say they actually need to feel financially successful today. So why does this happen? Well, honestly, your brain is kind of the worst friend at a party, all thanks to a psychological concept called hedonic adaptation. A Wharton study proved that for most people, happiness just keeps climbing with income forever. There's no magic plateau where you suddenly stop wanting more. No matter what number you hit, the surrounding cost of life quietly levels up to meet you, and you instantly start craving a bigger number. But hey, remember that light at the end of the tunnel I promised you? It all comes down to the incredibly empowering reality of compounding. And it's perfectly captured by Warren Buffett's old partner, Charlie Munger. He said, the first $100,000 is the hardest money you'll ever earn, and you just have to grind to get it. Why? Because after that, the snowball starts rolling on its own. This completely shifts our perspective away from the cold water of inflation and right into the absolute magic of math. Using the rule of 72 with an 8% return, just look at how this snowball actually works in real life. It is a brutal 23-year median grind to build that first million. But the second million, that is an almost insulting 9-year leap. And from 2 to 4 million, another 9 years. You basically push this snowball uphill for decades, but the second you crest the ridge, your money starts earning way more than you do, just gathering weight while you literally do nothing. All right, so let's get into the blueprint, what you actually need to do. Since the pop culture fireworks aren't coming, let's look at the mature adult steps you actually need to take the second your portfolio crosses that 7-figure mark. First off, you become a target once you have real assets. You've got to protect yourself by buying a $1 million umbrella liability insurance policy. It acts like a giant shield and honestly only costs about $200 to $400 a year. Next up, establish your estate documents. Get a will, a trust, powers of attorney. You also need to adjust your asset allocation to respect the sequence of returns risk, because a market drop in year 1 of retirement can be totally devastating. And whatever you do, you absolutely must prevent lifestyle inflation. To anyone looking from the outside, your life should look exactly identical to the version of it from 5 years ago, because the biggest mistake at this stage isn't a bad investment, it's letting your spending catch up to your portfolio. The data from a massive study of 10,000 millionaires shows that 94% of them live on less than they make, and they are typically driving older standard sedans like Toyotas or Hondas. Make no mistake, stealth wealth is real wealth. So how does hitting $1 million actually feel? Well, the shift is entirely internal. You don't go out and buy a yacht. What happens is, a $400 emergency vet bill just gets a nod and a credit card swipe, not a full-blown panic attack. You can Venmo your mom $1,800 for a broken water heater before she even finishes her sentence. And most importantly, you finally get a good night's sleep. Because that anxiety-inducing 2 a.m. mortgage math in your head, it finally goes quiet. You actually have a buffer underneath you now. And you know, that is exactly why when Leo put his phone down that morning, he didn't post on social media or throw a parade. He just made himself a piece of toast, finished his coffee, and went to his 9 a.m. meeting. He went to work because he actually likes his job. But the real prize is that now, he gets to do it completely without fear. I want to leave you with this final thought today. The true prize of hitting this $1 million milestone isn't endless luxury. It is profound peace of mind. You feel safe, not rich. So ask yourself, as we wrap up this explainer, are you ready to stop chasing the cultural myth, put your head down, and start building your safety?